Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I'm Dr. Carol Clark. I'm the president and director of the International Institute of Clinical Sexology. And welcome to our 2022 graduation. I'm both proud and humbled today as I look out at our faculty and our wonderful graduates of 2022. I'm proud of the school I started and have built over the last 7 years, and humbled because I certainly didn't do it by myself. I had the help of my husband, and Nikki, and my friends, who are all board of directors and faculty, and then Liz, and Omar, and Neil, and Evan, and Tim. Finally, we would be nothing without our students. And so I'm very honored that you chose us as the best place to come for your degrees, which are one pinnacle of your achievement, and also the beginning of the next chapter of your lives. So I welcome you all. I'm so proud of you all. And now, I'm going to introduce Dr. Janice Foster. She's our research chair. She's a former student. She was once sitting where you are and got her degree, and now she's part of our faculty. And now she is going to be our keynote speaker. So, Dr. Foster.
When we first invited Dr. Rob Weiss to be our keynote speaker this evening, he said, "Don't say anything about me, I'll introduce myself." So I could actually just sit back down, but I'm not going to, Dr. Rob. I'm going to say a few words that you might not include in your introduction. First of all, some basics, which can be say. Dr. Rob is a celebrated expert in the treatment of adult intimacy disorders and related addictions, primarily sex, porn, and relationship addictions, along with co-occurring substance and sex addictions. He frequently appears all over media. I've seen him on CNN, HLN, MSNBC, the New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, NPR, and other media outlets, where he discusses all of these topics because he's the go-to. Rob's the author of several books, including Codependence, Moving Beyond Codependency, Out of the Doghouse, Sex Addiction 101, and Cruise Control, and many others that I use in my practice. He blogs regularly for Psychology Today. His podcast, Sex, Love, and Addiction, is rated as a top 10 addiction podcast. One of the favorite things that he does, one of my favorite things, is that he runs a weekly support group that I hope all of you will join for therapists who have clients who are struggling with a variety of sex addictions. What Dr. Rob has done with this group, it's not just any group. This group is informative, nurturing, supportive, and everyone who's in it and attends every week all feels that it's family. It's very unique, and that's because of who Dr. Rob is. I will let him tell you details about his extremely successful program, Seeking Integrity, which is residential and also has a lot of outreach and online services for those in need, and has brought healing to so many individuals. Dr. Rob is a proud graduate of our program, and we are honored to have him on our staff. Personally, I'm honored to call him one of my dearest friends. Rob, I truly love having you in my life. It gives me great pleasure to introduce this evening's keynote speaker, Dr. Rob goals.
Hi, everybody. Welcome on this beautiful Sunday evening for you. I'm here in California, where it's a little bit earlier. I too want to thank Carol Clark, because I have, she's so down to earth and warm and real. And well, first I was going to say, living in California, I don't see many people like that. But more importantly, she's invitational. And I always felt welcome and invited into this program as a participant, as a student, and as a graduate. I can call Carol anytime, day or night, and she will show up and say, how can I help? And I find that inspiring, because I'm going to say something more like, can you call me in the morning? That was a joke, by the way. I don't see anyone laughing. That could be a problem. You can't hear me, yes? You just don't want to laugh at my jokes. Okay. So congratulations. I mean, there's so many of you I can thank. Thank Janice. Thank all of you teachers at the school who put up with so much crap. And the word dissertation, which strikes fear in the soul of every graduate school student. I don't know what it is. It could be, so many things that would scare people, but that word just seems to throw us off. So congratulations to all of you who got through it or finished it or managed to survive it. I think the fear of it, as often things are in life, is greater than the actual doing it. I know when I was going to see my parents in the past, the fear of going to deal with them was much greater than actually sitting with them. But that's a whole other story that you don't hear. I did want to tell you a little bit about being a doctor, because I got my graduate degree, this degree, at 58. And for those of us who are a little older, like myself, I never thought that would happen. I never thought that I would be growing and educating myself. Well, I didn't think I'd live this long, but certainly that I would have a reason to want to. And yet I have worked in the field of sexual disorders for since 1995, 05, 15, so almost 30 years, something like that. And I didn't know enough, as a sex addiction professional who's written, Janice didn't know this, 10 books, count them, 10 books. And I'm sitting here working on number 11. You'd think I know a lot about sex. What I knew a lot about was sex addiction. What I knew a lot about was sexual pathology. What I did not know a lot about was sexual health or sexual variation, or all the different ways that people could engage, enjoy, and celebrate their intimacy and sexuality with themselves or others. Because the perspective I came from was pathological. These people are creating awful problems in their lives because of all this sexual behavior, and they need to stop the problem. Walking into this world, very different, right? The first day I walked into class, there were dildos on every table. Purple ones, green ones, big ones, small ones. And I thought, no, I didn't think, which one do I want? I thought, what? Like, this is not what I signed up for. What am I doing with these things? And then I realized that the goal was to help me to look at my own discomfort and my own fears. And that was the purpose of all those dildos, although I'm sure there's some other reason for them I just can't remember at the moment. But in any case, what these folks have done, and what Carol has done in particular, I don't know how many of you are around when there are 12 students or 14 students or 25 students. It's real different now. And this woman, I just want to say, has built this from the ground up. Imagine starting a university from one student and one building. I think that, deserves to be celebrated. And I'm giving a silent. This is a California validation, by the way. We're on here. We don't want to clap and make a lot of noise. In California, we do this. So you can feel free to send Carol your love by doing this anytime you want. Very good. Let me tell you about being a doctor. I couldn't decide whether it was important or not. I knew it was important to other people. I knew when they saw the word doctor in front of my name that they were going to look at me differently, that they would look at my writing and they would look at my work differently. And honestly, I never thought of it that way. I didn't really think it meant anything. And for some reason, I ended up getting it. And I'm not even exactly sure how I got there. Truly, one day I was sitting at home, the next day I was in class. It's not something I thought I would do at this age. And considering what's left, 10, 15 years for me, what am I going to do with this thing that I worked so hard for? I don't barely have enough time to use it. And so I think what I want to tell you is the thing that means most to me is that I have never stopped learning or growing, ever. And it doesn't matter how old I am or what burdens I have in life, turning to the ability to move my brain into new theories and ideas is always a gift to me. And I'll just tell you, I spent the last 8 hours, 8 hours yesterday sitting here while my body is fading. My spirit is moved by looking at, for those of you who don't write, it's kind of like, oh, maybe I'll go closer to you. Here we go. For those of you who don't write, writing is kind of like masturbation. You know, I can type the words on the screen while I'm by myself and say, oh, I love that. That looks great. You know, and it's kind of like stroking myself on some level. But what I see is the knowledge that I've gained, translated. And let me give you this, because it was taught to me in graduate school. What I was told was that at the beginning, many of us start out, well, I'll say it this way. What I was taught was that there are people floating downstream and they're drowning. And some of us are going to sit there downstream and we're going to pull people out one at a time, and we're going to get them out of that water. And some of us are going to go run up to the head of the stream and try to figure out why those people are falling in the water. And I think that our careers often go from one place to another. I'm sure Carol was a very busy, engaged clinician, and now she's running a university. You know, I was a very engaged and passionate clinician. Now I write and speak and have evolved into other areas. This degree doesn't stop with, I'm going to see people. It can expand to whatever you want it to be. Trust me, I never thought I would be podcasting, writing blogs, writing books, and in the media, but here I am. And it's not related to how amazing I am. It is related to how passionate I feel about this work. And I know that any of you who are sitting there who have graduated, you're passionate about this work. And I don't mean sexually passionate, although we certainly enjoy that. I'm talking about the kind of passion that arises out of knowledge. You know, I say this often when I write, science matters. Words matter. What we know how to do is different than what most people can offer. And I think that's incredible. We have the unique opportunity, and I often say this to myself, I'm changing people's lives. And sometimes I'm changing their children's lives, even though I will never meet their children. And so on every level, I feel like everything that I've been given, I pay it forward with the opportunity to help others. And I really hope you look at it that way too. Whoever you're treating, whatever you're treating them for, we are paying forward the opportunity that we have had to grow and heal, be past our stuff into ways that we can do what we do. And I find that inspiring. That is the human experience at its best, to grow, to become engaged, and then to turn it around and help other people. What an amazing thing. It's what every parent does. And I feel like in our world, we can do it in a very different way. I did want to tell you a little bit more about being a doctor. When I became a doctor, I thought, well, this is important. I mean, I need to put doctor on something, but we don't write checks anymore. So I couldn't put doctor on a check. Most of my books are written and they don't say doctor, and you know, that's the way it is. And I couldn't get my husband to call me doctor, no matter how hard I tried. Although you will notice that here on Zoom, I was able to get Dr. Rob in there because I could actually type that in. But the one place that I thought would absolutely put doctor in my name was a credit card. I was absolutely certain that if I called the credit card company and I said, I just got my doctorate, that they would put Dr. Rob Weiss on the credit card. And I was so excited because then I could go into, you know, Macy's and say, here is the card. And someone would say, oh, you're a doctor. And so I did that. I called my credit card company and I said, I've just got a doctorate and I want you to put that on my card. And they said to me, oh, absolutely. We're going to make sure we do that for you. How great. How good is that for you? And then I got a card a week later, which said, Rob Weiss, MD. And that taught me a little bit about my pride and ego. I think I still have that card, by the way. But it's not about how it appears. It's about what's going on inside. I did write a couple of things down to talk about. I wanted to talk about my own pathology. I have a lot of sexual and emotional pathology, which I thought I would never be able to rise above, and nearly destroyed my life. And certainly acting out during the period of AIDS and HIV, I really shouldn't be here. And as profound and as troubling and as deeply hopeless as the way I was acting was, I found my way out of it. And not only that, but I learned that I can learn everything about sex from the inside out. And then I can learn all about it from the outside in. And both of those experiences are equally important, because when I walked up to a client and they're struggling with a sexual issue and they come in with shame and embarrassment and humiliation and fear, and I can look at them and say, oh, I get that. I've been ashamed and humiliated, embarrassed, and fearful of sexual issues, but I'm not anymore. And the fact that I can say I had those issues and I have moved past them is, excuse the word, inspirational to the people I work with. Sometimes they say to us therapists, do you share your personal experiences with your clients? And in this arena, I almost always do, because they need a role model to help them understand that these are not things to keep to yourself. These are things to seek help for, to reach out to other people for, to not be alone with. And I have to tell you, many of us are the last stop on the road that many people have had in getting to what the really issues are. They've been to this therapist, they've been to that therapist, they've read this book. They've never really talked about sex, and they've never really understood their bodies, their desires and their passions, or they've shoved them away, or it's affected other parts of their lives. And to be able to sit there and talk openly and honestly and clearly about this issue, which I know a lot about because I spent 30 years having it and 30 years learning about it, I see their faces relax. I see their bodies become less tense. I see them look at me and realize that I might really be able to help. And I'm not someone they have to be ashamed in front of or frightened. And my friends, that is a gift that wasn't available until the last 30 or 40 years. There was no one for these people to go talk to. There was no one that they could feel safe with, and no one who would respond to them. When I was 15 or 25 or 30, there wasn't anyone to talk about this with, except maybe Hugh Hefner. Now there's a world of people who are not only crazy people who want to talk about their sex lives. I mean, that's what we had in the 70s. Like, oh, I've had sex. I'll teach people about sex. We actually know things that can meaningfully help people. And that is the thing to celebrate. The doctorate's great. The PhD is wonderful. I'm sure your parents, if they were living, would be very proud. My mother played the Beatles song, Dr. Robert, over and over and over again throughout my childhood because she wanted me to be a doctor. And she thought that somehow that would influence me. I never forgot it, I'll tell you that. But it is by dipping into my own pathology, my own issues, my own fucked upness, and coming through that more or less to the other side, that lets me be a deeper and more aware and compassionate therapist. And so I say to all of you, please take, and this is on my list of things to talk about, please take the time to examine yourselves, to learn about yourselves, to understand why you're doing this work. Everyone, one of the things I love my patients, and I love working in treatment. And what I have learned over the years is that every single one of us chooses our profession for a the people, they choose law because they don't have to feel anything. They can stay in their heads all the time, and that's where they want to be. The people I know who choose to be physical therapists have often run into people with physical problems in their past, or they had physical problems and they surmounted them, and they now have something to give to other people. I want all of you to know and understand why you chose to do this, and how what you chose has something to do with helping other people. And how can you own the parts of you that are broken and that you know are broken, or you never would have chosen this field. And not only that, but how can you make lemonade out of lemons? Is that right? Take your lemons and turn them into lemonade, because that's the journey. We think we're here for other people. It's so really selfish that we're really doing all this for ourselves. It's nice to help other people, but every time I sit with someone, I think, wow, you have taught me far more than I knew. A couple of things before I'm done, because I'm not going to make this forever. I remember talking to a therapist that I had, and I was talking about seeing my clients, and I said, this one is this and that one is this. And she turned to me, she said, you work with really difficult people. And I thought, I do? Because it never occurred to me that these people were difficult. I mean, everyone I grew up with was difficult. This was just a norm. And when I worked in psychiatric, working with difficult people around difficult issues comes out of my ability to have learned that in a very early age. You know, I learned very early on how to tolerate difficult people because I grew up with them. And that ability to tolerate and working with difficult people has turned around and let me see difficult people with compassion and love, and also see my own difficulty and challenges with compassion and love. So I guess what I'm saying to you is this is a circular learning experience. We learn what we learn in our own experience, what we learn here and get that degree. And then all of it cycles and circles around to what we're giving to other people. I do want to encourage all of you who do not have a mental health background to please study and engage it. We are not simply treating it. I have never seen anyone come into my office purely for sexual issues. They have sexual issues and they want to resolve those sexual issues, but there's always more there. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to treat it, but what is important is I know what it is. You know, one of the things I loved about working in psychiatric hospitals for many years is I understand what crazy is. You know, crazy is throwing shit at the wall and, you know, running around naked in the street. You know, I know what crazy looks like, which is really convenient because when you come in my office and say, I feel really crazy, I'm like, no, you're a little nuts and neurotic, but you're not crazy. I know what crazy looks like. And so, you know, do I work with difficult and crazy people? You bet. Do I have compassion and understanding for them because I've been through my own craziness? You bet. And the better therapists here are digging deeper into your own stuff. I was just writing about transference and countertransference, and I realized that someone I am writing with does not understand countertransference. I read what they wrote and I thought, oh, this person doesn't get it. And you got to get it. You got to get how your experiences influence what's going on in the room. You have to understand how your reactions are affecting how you are treating the client and what you're asking of them. Self-knowledge is the key to doing this work. And all of us have emotional and mental health issues in our lives with people we love or ourselves, or we wouldn't be doing this. There is nothing more helpful in this work once you have this PhD than to take a deep dive into mental health and all of the issues related to it. You know, some of you know that I do consultation for you guys too. I do a once a month, I guess, supervision group is what you call it. And my supervision group is always the same. I'm teaching people how to pass the oral exam. That's what I'm interested in doing because I have friends who didn't pass it. And they came to me and they said, I don't understand why I didn't pass it. I know so much about sex. And the point and the reason they didn't pass it is because that's all they talked about was sex. And if you read the evaluations, the assessments, the stories of the people that we're asked to look at, we're always told that there's more there. There's trauma, there's abuse, there's lack of knowledge, there's neglect, you know, and we have to understand how those things show up in the people we want to treat and how they play out in the people, in the issues that we are treating. And so, you know, in this discussion of learning, I really implore you to look into and understand how mental health affects sexual health and how mental health affects relationships and intimacy. What we learned, we are doomed to repeat, and we will repeat it with our clients unless we fully understand what we're doing and how that affects them. I wanted to just say one more thing to you guys, now that I've covered the credit card and my difficult clients and the people you are privileged enough to work with. And this is going to be a little, well, it just is what it is. In 35 years of working on my own mental health and 25 years as a licensed professional in mental health, and let me see, and 3 years with a PhD in sex. By the way, did you ever tell someone that? I have a PhD in sex. Have you ever had them respond? When I'm not going to forget what I was going to say, but I'll just tell you this. When I used to ride on airlines, I thought, well, I don't want to talk about what I do because people are going to say things to me. So I would tell them I was a plumber. And then they would ask me about, well, I've got this problem with my sink. And do you think I should replace this? And not, I was like, oh, that doesn't work. And so then I would say, I'm a therapist in the seat next to them on the plane. And of course they'd say, oh, well, you know, my uncle's dealing with this and my auntie's dealing with this. And and so there I was on the plane. I was acting a plumber. I was playing a therapist. I've decided maybe I shouldn't talk to people on planes anymore. And then I thought, no, maybe I should tell them the honest truth. And the next person who asked me what I did on a plane, I said, I am a sex therapist. And they never said another word to me. So I encourage you, if you want peace of mind from people bothering you, just say that you delve intimately and deeply into the challenges people have with sex, and they won't bother you anymore. And that's true, by the way, that is a true story. So let me tell you the last thing I wanted to say. In all these adult years of doing this work, and I have been doing this work longer than I've been alive. That's not the way I want to say it. How do I say this? For 25 years, I was just me. And then the last 35 years, I've worked in this area, which means that I've done this work longer than I was a child and a young adult. This has been my whole life for so many years. I have taught all over the world. I was doing 30 talks a year. I have been a traveling rock and roll band in every small city and large city in this country. I have done a lot of things in my career, but I'll tell you what the most important 4 letters in the language are. Actually, I will tell you what the most important 4-letter word is in this language, in our language. The most important 4-letter word, and I know you think you know what it is, but it isn't. And then think, oh, he's saying that one because that's, we already know. Because I really know after all this work what the most important 4-letter word is in our language. And that word is home. That word is home. Home is the foundation of our lives, and the people we love allow us to go out into that really difficult, brutal world and come back to catch our breath and get a hug and go back out into that world. And, for so many years, I thought sex was what life was about. I thought finding a partner was life was about. I thought studying, writing, reading, teaching was what life is about. And you know what? It doesn't hold a candle to coming home and having this foundation of my life here to support me. When I work with addicts, what they forget is the most important 4-letter word in the language. Well, I'll put it to you this way, and this is what I tell them. Healthy people, in my opinion, grow up in a reasonably stable, reasonably responsive home. And then at a certain point during their teen years, they have to get the heck out of there and figure out who they are. And then they turn around and they look for someone to be with or people to be with, and then they create their own home. They may do it on their own, they may do it with other people, but they realize that is the place where they have their most stability. The people I work with grow up in really screwed up homes where they get out of there as quickly as they can, not to individuate because they don't want to be there anymore, and reasonably so. And then they go out in the world and they find people or do whatever, and they create their own home, and then they run away from home, the one that they created. And it took me, and I spent a long time running away from home on every level until I realized that this is the rock of my life. And when we are going to die or pass or go away, where do we want to go? We want to go home. I just lost one of my best friends about 3 weeks ago to cancer. I lost my sister about 4 weeks before that to COVID. So I've had a lot of losses in the last number of months. But my dearest friend of 43 years, what he told me when he was still doing well is, I want to die in my home with people I love around me. I don't want to be in some sterile place where people are coming and going. And I want to tell you a little bit about what that was like. I had 2 experiences of death in the last 3 or 4 months. I lost my sister in my incredibly dysfunctional and crazy family. And what they did was they gave her body to science, so to speak. I never saw her again. I never spoke to her again. There was no memorial. There was no funeral. The day after she died, I felt this incredible feeling of loneliness because I realized why people come together and eat corned beef sandwiches the day after someone dies. It's so they can come together and celebrate and find comfort in each other. That's why. My family doesn't know how to do that. But 4 weeks later, my best friend died. And his family and I, because he asked me to be, his brothers and sisters and I were all around him in his home. And we spent 3 days with him watching him and sitting with him as he died. You know, first he was conscious and he could talk to us, and then he wasn't, and then he was just on the way out. And I was rubbing his feet, and other people were stroking his head, and other people were holding his chest, and we all sat around him, and he died. That was one of the most joyful and sad experiences of my life, because I didn't just say goodbye to someone in a hospital, and I didn't just have them go away as they did it in my family. I got to experience laughter, joy, love, and loss all at the same time with people all around me. That's what home is about. That is the foundation of our lives. And I tell you this because I don't want you to waste a minute. Well, how do I want to say this positively? I want you to take every moment you have and make sure that that foundation and base of your life is secure. Because ultimately, no matter how much we achieve, nothing else matters. And no one sits in bed and says, I'm dying, but I wish I got another PhD. You know, they lie in bed and say, I want to be people around me and I want to be in my home. And that is the most important thing that I can say to you guys, is to take and celebrate your learning and make sure that the foundation that supports it is your home and the people who love you. Because, you know, I'm reasonably well known out there for my sex. I used to be known for the sex I have, and now I'm known for my knowledge of sex. But at the end of the day, that's not important to me. I mean, it's useful and it helps. But what's important to me is that I have a foundation of support that allows me to live my life. I was never, and I'll just say this for me, I have never been as successful, as happy, and as at peace until I had this place as the foundation of my life. And so I encourage you to be joyful, to love the people you love, to take this experience into your quill of knowledge and experience, and keep adding to it and shoot it back out at people when you need to. All those dildos lying on all those tables taught me so much more than I ever thought they would. I used to think I knew what a dildo was for. Now I realize I didn't. It's about comfort and knowledge and connection and growth. And then it has something to do with sex. So I celebrate all of you, and I got to celebrate my friend Carol and Janice. And by the way, you know, Dr. Volker, in case you're not familiar with her history, read a little bit about her. You know, she's in the record book. She changed my life and the life of every gay man in the 80s. What she did for us was outstanding. And I really recommend you sit down and have a conversation with her, because she's a figure in history, and you get to sit there and work with her, which I think is so incredibly amazing. I guess I'll say one more thing. I used to think that it was important to go to a named school, you know, to some place that people would recognize when they heard it. And now I realize, well, and it's not too late, I hope, that has nothing to do with the learning that I needed. Where I went to school, the name of the school, how popular the school was. What mattered was, again, the home that school created for me. And you guys, you PhDs, have lived in a home of love, support, and containment so that you could grow for a while now. And my hat's off, even though I don't have one on, to the people who created and provided that space for you. As a therapist, I know, especially as a group therapist, I know that the work is not done by me. The work is done by the people I hold in space, that I carry, that I contain, that I watch out for, so that they can do their own growth. And that's what's been done for you here in small and big ways. You have been held and supported and nurtured so that you can go out in the world and do what you need to do. And for that, I would be forever grateful to Dr. Clark, she, her, and Ella, who has carried you and created a space for you to find this educational home. And, you know, congratulations to all of you. You have achieved something that very few people do, but also you've achieved something that very few people have the opportunity to do. So I want you to give yourself a good hug, and also make sure that you hold on to your gratitude, because that's what, how do I say this? Because gratitude and humility, what make it work all the way through life. Anyway, thank you for asking me to speak. I hope there's somebody else lined up there, because, you know, what else will I say if someone doesn't take over? Oh, I see. They went out for candy and chocolates while I'm standing here. So Dr. Clark, Dr. Janice, there you go. Someone's coming up there. God bless all of you. I love you, whatever your conception of that is. And I want to thank you all for being people who are willing to take parts of yourself and give them to people who need them more. So thank you so much. Thank you to IICS, and happy graduation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rob. Thank you for all the wonderful things that you said about me. And the wonderful things in your talk was truly inspirational as always, which is why I invited you, and thank you so much for agreeing to talk to our class.
And that's why they pay me the big bucks.
I just want to respond to a couple of things. Yes, this is your home, all of you graduates, all of you other students still out there. We try to create a home. We have our listserv, we have us. We are always here for you. So Aisha knows that. She's doing this well. And I just want to say, contrary to what Dr. Weiss has to say about telling people he's a sex therapist and everybody shuts down, I thought the exact opposite. When I tell people I'm a sex therapist, the first thing you say is, "Oh, I need to talk to you."
That's because you're safe.
So I don't know what to make of that, but I can say that being a sex therapist and having a doctorate, being a sex doctor is really awesome. And so I'm glad Dr. Rob is part of our family. I'm glad all of you are part of our family. And now I'm going to deviate from our program because I have a little expert. When I started this program, it was actually, the school started, launched in 2016. But that was after over a year of work. A year of solid work. Such intense, bureaucratic work. And the person that was by my side, and in fact, out there on her own doing that work, was Nikki Conning. So all my bright ideas and drive and everything else, I can tell you right now, this school would not be here because it's not about being a good teacher, having the ideas and having all the stuff that I have to bring to it. But you can't do any of that without the engineer, without the person who's putting it all together, who's making it happen and doing, honestly, the drudgery of going through bureaucracy, going through the forms, of checking off everything and dealing with the state. And Nikki did that. Nikki did that. And so honestly, it's because of her that we have a school. It's because of her you're here. And so I have a gift. Yay.
Yay, Nikki! Woo!
She started the university with this.
I have a treasure chest, and of course, it is got red wine. So there's red wine. Here's your treasure. Oh, every type of chocolate you can imagine. And of course, putting up with me. I'll share it with you. Really? So thank you, Nikki.
Thank you.
You're beyond my right hand, my left hand, everything. So thank you. Okay, well, I think it's time to turn our attention to our graduates. So now we're going to, right, what's going next? The hoodie ceremony. Dr. Rodriguez Miller, would you come up? And Dr. Mulder, why don't you, Dr. Somebody, Batista, you're like, Batista. So first, okay, I will hand them out. I think we got this down like this. So we're going to put people and then we're going to get the ready. Moment, come over this way so you can see in front of the camera. And now we have. Let me get all my names. In alphabetical order. Aisha Bailey. Congratulations.
Yes, Isha!
Chuck Lewis. Congratulations, Chuck. Tatiana Estes.
Who?
Lloyd Godfrey is not able to be with us tonight, but it's all sent him and his family our prayers and lots of love and honors.
That's Esther, let me call out her name. The volume, something's wrong with the
Hey, Ether.
We'll turn your attention to our camera. We have Jen Kennedy.
There she is.
Okay, Jen. And Glenn Byron, native.
Yeah, somehow the stupid thing was muted and all you see was her going up there. I didn't hear them call her name. The stupid thing was muted. Right now they're typing and you can't hear it.
Or did I see this turning on fire?
It's on there, and I guess.
Now Veronica Bobadilla Luis. Samantha Ross. And now,
Maybe we get everybody
here we
around
are,
here.
everybody all are, Dr. Boker, Dr. Ramon, Dr. Rosler, everybody come up here and look at this. Okay, more.
What you don't expect. I'm always here. And we still have Jen up there. Well, wait, Dr. Barker's gonna start. Yes. And we can be holding. Yeah. Only for holding stars. Yay.
I'm going to, we're going to hand out the actual diplomas, because these are like for show. And we have actual diplomas, and we'll have photo ops as we're doing that. But then we're going to turn the music back on. And we're all going to cheer our graduating class. Aisha Bailey.
Let's get it.
And yes, Dr. Lewis.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Lewis. Dr. Cascano. Dr. Kennedy. And who's the other one? I'm pretty. That was very nice. Pictures. Dr. Sammy Robinson. Hold on, we have let's see. I'm trying. Now because it's this is. Oh, where's that? And we have it. We're trying to show it to you. We'll take a picture and we'll mail it to you.
Sounds good, thank you.
Dr. Kennedy.
Thank you.
You don't have Veronica. We should get Veronica.
She'll just have to write it.
Oh, so hold up
Mira,